Everyone protected him. For 20 years, one of the biggest names in entertainment operated with complete immunity. Networks knew. Managers knew. And they all looked the other way. But then 4 women decided they had nothing left to lose. What happened next didn't just end a career. It exposed an entire system designed to silence anyone who dared to speak up. And the man at the center of it all? He never saw it coming. This is the story of how Russell Brand's empire came crashing down, and why the people who enabled him are still hoping you never learn the truth. Let's go back to September 2023. A documentary airs on British television. 4 women come forward with allegations spanning over a decade. Within hours, Russell Brand's entire public persona begins to unravel. But here's what most people missed. This wasn't sudden. This was the moment a carefully constructed wall finally cracked. See, Brand had built something more than a career. He'd built a protection system. A network of enablers, managers, and industry insiders who had one job: keep the machine running, no matter what. And for years, it worked perfectly. So the question isn't just what did Russell Brand do? The real question is, who knew, and why did they stay silent for so long? That answer will change how you see the entire entertainment industry. Pause, and trust me, it goes deeper than anyone expected. To understand how this all collapsed, you need to understand how it was built. Russell Brand emerged in the early 2000s as British television's wild child. Unpredictable, provocative, and absolutely untouchable in terms of ratings. His rise was meteoric. By 2008, he was hosting major awards shows. By 2010, he was a Hollywood leading man. And throughout all of it, there were whispers. Complaints to network executives. Uncomfortable incidents on set. HR files that mysteriously disappeared. But here's the thing about rising stars in entertainment. The higher they climb, the more people depend on them. Agents taking their cut. Producers needing their shows to succeed. Networks desperate for those ratings numbers. Everyone had a reason to look the other way. SFX, dramatic sound, and that created something dangerous. A bubble of protection that grew stronger with every success. If you're finding this revealing, a like helps more than you know. Tone shift, from analytical to dramatic, but let me stop here and tell you about something that will make your blood run cold. In 2006, a young woman working on Brand's radio show filed a formal complaint. Do you know what happened to that complaint? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. She was quietly moved to a different department. Brand's show continued. His star kept rising. And that complaint? It vanished like it never existed. Whisper, now imagine how many others there were. How many people spoke up, only to watch their words disappear into a corporate void. This is where the story shifts from one man's behavior to something much larger. Because this wasn't negligence. This was a system working exactly as designed. The entertainment industry didn't fail to protect these women. It succeeded in protecting its investment. Pause twos, and Russell Brand. He was a very profitable investment. By the early 2010s, Brand had evolved. He wasn't just a comedian anymore. He was positioning himself as a spiritual guru. A truth teller. Someone fighting against the corrupt systems of power. Perspective shift, now think about that for a moment. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who knew what he'd done. Watching him preach about morality. Watching millions hang on his every word about authenticity and truth. The audacity is almost incomprehensible. But it worked. His YouTube channel exploded. His podcast became massive. He built an entirely new empire on the foundation of being an outsider speaking truth to power. And here's where it gets even more twisted. Some of the same people who had covered for him in his television days, they were now profiting from his reinvention. Different platform. Different image. Same protection network. Direct address. Okay, I need you to really pay attention here because this is where everything changes. What I just told you. That's the story everyone knows. But that's not even the real scandal. Escalation pivot. The real scandal is what happened when the documentary was being made. Dispatches, the show that eventually aired the allegations, have been working on this story for years. Years. And during that time, someone was leaking information to Brand's team. He knew it was coming. He had time to prepare. And prepare he did. In the months before the documentary aired, Brand shifted his entire online presence. He started talking about being targeted by mainstream media. He planted the narrative that any accusations against him would be a coordinated attack. He turned his audience into a shield. SFX, dramatic sound, so when the allegations finally dropped, millions of his followers had already been programmed to dismiss them. This wasn't damage control. This was preemptive warfare. And it almost worked. Almost. Because here's what Brand didn't count on. The women who came forward weren't just random accusers. They had kept everything. Emails. Text messages. Witnesses. Medical records. One of them had documented everything in real time, keeping a journal that would prove devastating in its detail. When the documentary aired, it wasn't just allegations. It was a paper trail that spanned over a decade. And suddenly, Brand's carefully constructed counter-narrative started to crack. Within 48 hours, YouTube demonetized his channel. Within 72 hours, his agency dropped him. His book publisher paused all projects. His touring company canceled upcoming shows. The same industry that had protected him for 20 years suddenly couldn't distance themselves fast enough. Drop your prediction in the comments. Did you see this coming? Because what happened next shocked even the people closest to him. Brand didn't disappear. He doubled down. Direct address, and this is the part that reveals everything about how this system actually works. Instead of addressing the allegations, Brand leaned harder into his conspiracy narrative. He painted himself as a victim of the establishment. A truth-teller being silenced. And here's the disturbing part, it worked on a significant portion of his audience. His paid subscription platform Rumble saw a spike in supporters. Donations poured in. He became a martyr for people who distrusted mainstream media. But here's what his remaining supporters don't know. While Brand was playing the victim online, behind closed doors, his legal team was working overtime. Not to clear his name in court, but to settle quietly with accusers. To make problems disappear the old-fashioned way. The man railing against corrupt systems. He was using every tool those systems provide. Cause twos, and the people who enabled him for decades. They're still in positions of power. Still making decisions about whose careers rise and whose complaints get filed away. So what does Russell Brand's story actually tell us? It tells us that the entertainment industry's protection system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended, for some people. It tells us that fame creates a force field that takes decades and extraordinary courage to penetrate. It tells us that when powerful people fall, they often take no one down with them. The executives who ignored complaints still have their jobs. The managers who facilitated access still manage other stars. The networks that buried HR files are still producing content. Music shift, but it also tells us something else. The system can be beaten. Not easily. Not quickly. But the women who came forward proved that enough documentation, enough courage, and enough persistence can crack even the most protected fortress. Russell Brand's empire didn't just collapse. It exposed the architecture that had held it up for 20 years. And once you see that architecture, you can never unsee it. And here's something that should keep the industry up at night. This story isn't over. Investigations are ongoing. More accusers have come forward since the documentary aired. Legal proceedings are still unfolding. The same documentation strategy that brought brands' behavior to light is being replicated by accusers of other powerful figures right now, as we speak. Perspective shift, think about what this means for the next decade of entertainment. Every person in a position of power who has behaved like brand now knows that the old protection system has cracks. Every person who has been wronged now has a blueprint for how to be heard. The Russell Brand scandal wasn't just about one man. It was a proof of concept. Proof that even the most untouchable stars can be held accountable. It just takes time, documentation, and people brave enough to speak when everyone tells them to stay silent. But there's one more piece to this puzzle that nobody is talking about. The platform shift. See, when traditional media started to turn on Brand, he didn't lose his voice. He just moved it somewhere else. Platforms like Rumble that positioned themselves as free speech alternatives became his new home. And this creates a dangerous precedent. Escalation, because now there's a playbook. Get accused of serious misconduct. Claim persecution. Move to alternative platforms. Build an audience of people who distrust mainstream narratives. Monetize victimhood. It's working for Brand. And it's being watched by every other public figure who fears accountability. The question is, what happens when this becomes the standard response? When facing consequences just means pivoting to a new audience? The accountability that these brave women fought for could be undermined by the very technology that helped expose the truth. So where does that leave us? Russell Brand went from one of the biggest entertainers in the world to a cautionary tale in the span of weeks. His traditional career is effectively over. But his online presence continues. His legal battles continue. And the system that created him? It continues too. The enablers have learned one lesson: be more careful about documentation. Not be more careful about who you protect. Direct address, and that's why stories like this matter. Not because of one celebrity's downfall, but because of what that downfall reveals about the machinery of fame, protection, and power. Russell Brand didn't operate in a vacuum. He operated in an ecosystem that rewarded his behavior and punished those who tried to expose it. Until it didn't. Until 4 women decided that their truth was more important than his empire. Until the weight of evidence became impossible to ignore. That's not just karma. That's justice demanding its due, no matter how long it takes. Now you know the full story of how Russell Brand's empire collapsed. Not just what happened, but who enabled it, who ignored it, and who finally brought it down. If this opened your eyes to how these systems really work, subscribe for more stories where karma always finds a way. I want to know, what surprised you most about this story? And who do you think should be held accountable next? Drop it in the comments. The next story on this channel might just be even more shocking than this one.